Okay. Hello, and welcome to Climate Agents, Agents of Change. Today we have Helen Tiffin with us, and I'm so glad because every time I have a new guest, they bring a whole different aspect to this subject of climate change and climate advocacy, climate action advocacy. So let's talk to Helen. Hi, Helen.
Hello, it's great to be on.
And thank you so much for coming. And I'd like to, ask you to introduce yourself.
Okay. I am a sophomore at the College of William & Mary, studying conservation and geology. I am the vice president of my college chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby at William & Mary, and I've been very involved with Citizens Climate Lobby for the past year and a half now, doing different advocacy works. I'm doing my internship there, which is on website design, and one of CCL's, why I was attracted to the organization, were their core values of nonpartisanship and optimism. And these are things that are very valuable in the fight against climate change, is getting everyone on board and avoiding burnout. So through this work, I've been doing a lot of conservative outreach and then changing the narrative of climate change and how I view the work that I do and how I get others involved as well.
Okay, changing the narrative. And conservative outreach, meaning talking to political conservatives about climate change.
Yeah.
How do you reach them? How do you find them?
It is, you have to know where to look. So it's a lot about climate change is it's not the issues that are polarizing, it's the approach to those issues.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's what we want to do about it.
Like hunters and fishers are some of the largest conservationists out there, and skiers as well, like their sport is quite literally melting away. Mm-hmm. So if you lead with solutions and connect to what people care about, it becomes something that's not political, something that people genuinely want to work for. One of the things that I've learned over my advocacy through the Yale study on climate communication is there are two key values dear to American culture and society, no matter how diverse we are. Like the one thing that would connect me to like a rural farmer in Idaho to like across the political spectrum are protecting the people and places you love and responsibly managing the nation's resources effectively. And so these two things are, we're all just looking at it from different angles. And
well, we all agree on those things.
Exactly. And so the conversation is about, well, how do we get to these end results? Because your framework puts you here, and my framework puts me here, and how do we consolidate these things and work together on these issues?
I've literally been told by conservatives that, yes, climate change is real, yes, it's serious, yes, it's an emergency, but we can't do anything about it because that would be totalitarian. Hmm. They really can't, these people, many actually, I've talked to hundreds of people at this point, and they have said they can't conceive of solutions that aren't totalitarian in some way.
Yeah. And
that therefore they'd rather die or give up the world than consider anything that would be totalitarian. But for me, I think a revitalization of democracy is more the solution.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think keeping our values and frameworks for sure. Have you heard about carbon pricing?
Yes. It's a good thing to talk about.
So one of CCL always like leads with policy as their solution, as that like is a very tangible key thing to get people on board and engaged. Mm-hmm. And their darling policy of choice is the carbon fee and dividend. Mm-hmm. And so it essentially works within the economy to price carbon at the source. And this causes an even distribution. So if carbon is taxed, then carbon-intensive products will become more expensive, and products that are better for the environment will become less expensive. And so people are going to want to buy the cheaper option and wanting to ending up making the better choice for the environment. And then the dividend is what separates the policy from a lot of the other policies in carbon taxes in other countries, in that it redistributes the money equally to Americans so that lower and middle class Americans would break even or gain from the dividend. And this policy is nonpartisan. It's gaining support. Can I show you a simulation by MIT?
Yes, yes.
Okay, it'd be on there. It's called En-ROADS, EN-ROADS.
Yes. Okay. But first, let me ask you, so why should it be shared equally when the very, very rich people don't really need it?
So the pricing goes up. If you buy a yacht and you have multiple cars, that's more carbon intensive. And so that means you're going to be paying more of the carbon tax. And so the money from the dividend will be redistributed. Whereas if you are barely able to pay for food, things like that, you are not going to be spending as much on carbon intensive products. And so the tax is going to be less. And so if you're buying a yacht, it will be more expensive than it otherwise would.
Or a private jet, or a private island. We're talking about these people.
So in these situations, it wouldn't account. But for those who financially need it, it would be protective of them.
Okay. And so you mentioned the carbon fee and dividend. And the carbon fee is, when you talked about taxing carbon at its source and making the non-carbon solutions more affordable, I think that makes so much sense, because what I've seen about Homo sapiens is that we will use whatever is handiest and at hand and easiest.
Oh, for sure.
And we really need our choices limited in order to make the right choices. we need to be given
exactly
we need to have the wrong choices kind of taken out of the choice basket, because otherwise we're going to choose the easiest thing all the time.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of the problem is that it being worse off for the environment is currently what's convenient. And so there aren't solutions that make being sustainable convenient.
Right.
Like if...
In fact, the opposite.
Exactly. It's the opposite, because that's where the money is right now. And so what's so valuable about a carbon fee and dividend is that it shifts that narrative and places the economic benefit on sustainable items.
So how close are we to getting it?
We're getting closer year by year. I can't say that it's going to be any minute now, but United States and Australia are currently the only two countries with developed economies that do not have one. And
what?
Yes.
Can you say that again?
Currently.
Really?
The United States and Australia are the only two countries without some form of carbon pricing. And with a developed economy. And so there's a lot of support across all sides of the political spectrum on this. If you do pull up En-ROADS, I can show you how effective it truly is.
I'm doing a whole session on En-ROADS because I lead that all the time. So and it's kind of long. So I'd rather get to some of the other things that you were talking about. Climate communication. And dealing with the emotions having to deal with climate. You know, because if you keep up on the science, it can be kind of emotional, a little bit depressing sometimes. So it's hard to keep that optimism that you're talking about.
For sure.
Especially when you're surrounded by people who are outright, like, willfully ignorant about it. You know, willfully saying, yeah, I know it's bad, but I really don't want to hear about it because I don't want to be brought down.
Yeah.
I'm afraid if I hear about it, I'll be incapacitated. I don't want to be I don't want to be depressed, you know? And that's valid. I can understand that, but at the same time, it takes a lot of energy to shove reality away constantly, right?
Yeah. I have had similar experiences.
It's frustrating.
The Yale study has categorized what's called the 6 Americans.
Good.
So there are people who are alarmed about climate change. These are people who are actively taking steps towards climate change. Then the next level down is concerned, people who are aware that it is a problem, but are not as out far as concerned. Cautious is the next step below that. Disengaged is another step. They are not involved politically at all. Not that climate change is a political issue. They're not involved in knowing about climate change, not hearing science on either side. Doubtful are those who don't believe climate change is happening. And then dismissive are those who are actively aggressive if hearing the topic. And
somehow I seem to run into those a lot.
Yeah. The Yale study says that disengaged is the lowest category at 5%. Alarmed, dismissive is the lowest category at only 9% of the population. Believe it or not, they are just the loudest.
Yeah. So they're a small group, but they're kind of controlling the narrative in some ways.
Doubtful is at 10%, cautious is at 17%, concerned 25%, and alarmed is the highest group at 33%.
That's good news. I didn't know that. Oh, but is there a category above alarmed? Because I think that's where I would fall.
Not yet, but you can make one.
Alarmed and absolutely outraged and totally dedicated to getting this changed within my lifetime.
For sure. And so CCL's advice for this is we don't need 9% of the population to make change. But we do need the rest of the percentages to come together. And so if you are in a situation with someone who is actively aggressive about climate denial, the best thing that's recommended is to politely excuse yourself and then just step away from the conversation, because these are the things that lead to burnout the quickest. These are what get you frustrated and having to explain, but it's so, like, it's right there, it's right in front of me, like, please, don't you understand that is what I have found to be the hardest. And staying optimistic is knowing what fights are healthy for you to keep on going.
I can agree with that. However, I have experienced people who, they're not dismissive, but they just really don't know for sure. They don't know enough to, what's the word? They're not certain enough about it to put any effort into it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times just asking them, what do you think about climate change? And that's what this podcast is a lot about.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, what do you think about it and why? And then I listen to what don't they know about the science that's maybe influencing what they think about climate change in general. And a lot of times they have huge gaps in their knowledge of the science.
Yeah.
And don't understand why the denier talking points are not correct.
Yeah. And also, a lot of it comes down to how we filter information that's given to us, and knowing, like, which sources are
authoritative.
Yeah, which ones are backed,
believable.
But I do have another little bit on climate communication. And it kind of like goes into the mental health stuff.
Yeah.
Is essentially like climate communications are hard, and they are controversial. They're stressful. They create like an isolated feeling, especially if you're
not connected already.
Yeah, not connected, don't have that support group.
Yeah.
And then even when you do find that support group, it can be so easy to just go, well, I know this horrible fact about ocean acidification. Well, no, I know this horrible fun fact about deforestation, and like this is how screwed we are, and like all this stuff. And so none of these conversations are healthy or productive, and these lead to burnout. And so essentially,
Agreed. Yeah.
it's the best advice is to just not self-silence, to keep talking about it, keep having those conversations, but do them in ways that prevent burnout, do them in ways that are healthy and with healthy people. And at the end of the day, talking with others is going to be the fundamental way that we can get them to care and build a the political will for climate change.
I so agree. That Margaret Klein Salomon was one of the first psychologists to speak out about the fact that it's healthy to respond to an emergency appropriately.
Yeah.
And we're not responding to an emergency appropriately if we're hiding our heads in the sand
Exactly.
or denying it.
Yeah.
And so, but her first step is break the silence. And we're not, and then we're not having climate conversations in our daily lives.
It's true.
You try to bring it up, and people are like, that's a person bringing up a downer again,
And there is like this resistance to climate change. Like I found like any other topic, just I'll name a few political hot topics like gun violence or something. People want to talk about that. People have, but like with climate change, people instantly like put up this barrier, and they hide.
Right.
And so much of that is like the psychology behind like getting back to those core fundamental reasons of why people care, because this like endangers my family. This is an issue that is bigger than me. This is something about not only my family, but like potentially like the end of like my community, altering my world in a very different way that is scarier than a lot of the other issues. And the fact that it's far off,
well, not really far, but it's perceived that way.
That there is that distance to it. I think it makes people realize their mortality, in a sense, and includes procrastination in there as well somewhere. Like, oh, this isn't my problem. I'm gonna live like my life expectancy. Only like a few noticeable things. But I mean, I live in Ohio. I'm not gonna experience anything. So it's definitely there's that as well. Just forgetting my next talking point.
Well, people, need to care about the babies born today.
Exactly.
They're going to be 80 years old at the turn of the century. And
that's my children, my family. So that's why this is the problem of my generation. And I'm currently helping plan a conference in Virginia at William & Mary about intergenerational climate work.
Oh, I want to go.
You can. The tickets just dropped. And so the quote, I'm trying to remember. It's better to be a dutiful descendant than other way around. It's better to be a good ancestor than a dutiful descendant. So basically there's all this about like respecting your elders, and this is absolutely true. But in some situations, elders are what got us to the situation that we're in. And so it's about building a world for the next generation and like being like, this is part of my hard work for you. And that's I think a shift as well, a mindset.
I feel like it's my generation's responsibility to lay the foundation so that your generation can jump from that. Like, if we don't do our part right now to end the use of fossil fuels, then there won't be the scientific you won't have the resources to do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you won't have laboratories that aren't flooded. You won't have colleges and things that you need to do the innovations that are going to help recover the health of our planet.
Yeah, for sure.
And in the recent, I lead a climate literacy course for adults at a public library, and there was a woman who was a contemporary of my mother there, so she was in her 80s. And, you know, I realized that her use of fossil fuels was taking care of her children and giving them the best. And my use of fossil fuels was doing the best for my child, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it wasn't known or perceived exactly at that time. And I was even fooled by the denial campaign for a while, you know, to say, it's not that bad, it's, you know, it's exaggerated, etc., all those things. So, in a way, you know, I don't, and all of us even today, there's, you know, like, did you drive here in a fossil fuel car? Are you using a plastic water bottle? You know, and I don't buy into climate guilt because we all inherited the system.
Exactly.
The system is designed to maximize the use of fossil fuels, not save them, not minimize them, but maximize them. So that, and we all kind of are born into that.
Yeah. I am also personally believe that individuals shouldn't be held responsible. It is a systemic problem, which requires systemic solutions. An all-pervasive problem needs an all-pervasive solution, which it's partly being in school. I've seen like how this problem is being tackled on all sides, in ways that I had never thought of before.
Like divestment?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of. There has been a big divestment movement on my campus, but in the sense that like people are really obscure majors, like they're psychology and biology, and she's gonna be an animal behavioralist, and like I'm conservation and geology, and these are careers that we're forging for ourselves that are to attack this problem on all sides, because that's the type of problem that it is. It's attacking us on all sides as well.
I'm so glad, but I don't know that the public policy people and the engineers and the financiers, the other disciplines, are also being trained in climate change. I personally think nobody should get a college degree at all unless they know the basic physics of our planet and thoroughly understand climate change, because then they would be making different decisions for even development, you know?
Yeah. And William and Mary, I don't know how other schools do this. William and Mary's liberal arts, so we have to have like some form of holistic education, and everyone needs to have some form of climate training in there at some point or another.
They have to pass a climate literacy test.
That's
what I would implement.
I'm friends with an economic professor who teaches an environmental course just for like, he says to like get the business kids knowing what's going on.
Good. Yeah.
But
because it's totally right now it's not factored into the bottom line. It's considered an externality. You know,
exactly.
all that excess stuff we admit.
Yeah.
No price put on it yet, but you're gonna help put a price on it.
I am helping put a price on it. I lobbied my congressman just the other month through the Dayton chapter of CCL.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
It went really well.
Okay.
We lobbied for an addition to the Farm Bill and the Big Wires Act, but we always mention the carbon fee and dividend along with it. And I can't say, actually, I'm realizing, but very optimistic. They're very respectful and very engaged, and that they liked our approach and efficiency. We go in knowing what we're asking for and try to be as respectful of the member of Congress's time as possible.
That's excellent. I also have found that the member of Congress has aides and staff who are often very young. And so when I talk to them, instead of the congressperson, I often call or leave messages or talk to them. I'm like, this is your world and your future. you're the one that should be even more interested in it at this point.
Yes.
Yeah. So my approach with climate conversation is to summarize what I'm hearing and help them get more specific, because a lot of times they're just kind of fuzzy about what they think. And so I repeat what they think and say, is this what you mean? And it helps them kind of hear what they've said. Mm-hmm. And I think I get a good response from that.
Yeah. I think listening is definitely really vital. And so much of it does come from like your framework of how you've like grown up and the people you've been around, and you might be able to find something that you didn't even know yourself in listening to that, and also like other connections that we wouldn't have been able to find. I am not a hunter, but if I were to talk to one, just as like an example, we could bond over quite a bit, just even being so different as we are, just our care about nature, even though it's from a completely different perspective than how I see it. Yeah.
Well, how do people get involved in CCL?
Well, you can go to their website, Citizens Climate Lobby.
Oh. Okay.
And then if you want to do fun action items, it's cclusa.org/action, and that's refreshed constantly, and that pulls up a portal to email or call your representative based off of the newest nonpartisan policies that they have.
Or is it this tab called Take Action?
It's also under the tab Take Action.
Okay, that's easier. So citizensclimatelobby.org. And then there's Take Action. So you can take action without sort of joining anything yet?
Yep. And then if you want climate tips, advice, they have like
our climate solution.
Dozens. Yes, those are the policies, carbon fee and dividend included. If you want more like free, they offer free courses. Everything's completely free. It's a grassroots volunteer organization. They have really everything, engaging with the far right, engaging with the far left, how to use social media for climate advocacy, lobbying training, all of this. And you can sign up very easy and get
See it right there?
get lobbying training, and you can do that. And then
and there's a good group in Dayton.
There is a very good group in Dayton. It's a very good community, very supportive.
Our values. So people can read all about it.
Yeah.
Something I like about it is it's a easy entry. There's no barriers to entry. It's not hard to start to get involved. People kind of hold your hand and help you. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone is like aware that we're all beginners at one point, and that we need everyone on board for this problem. So. Yeah,
it's great. I'm glad you're with it. I'm glad you're with them. And you're doing something for them online or with social media or something?
I'm redesigning their website. I'm doing a lot of internal structure. I'm creating places for students. At weekly meetings, a lot of people do PowerPoint presentations. So I'm consolidating a bunch of the different colleges' presentations. So that way, like, I want to do a meeting on a deforestation policy. Then you can just like scroll through our like album of presentations and like pull one. Just like a library. Same with tabling resources. So tabling is just when you grab a table and go out into the community and just sit and talk with people. That's where I've had most of these conversations.
Or join community events.
Exactly.
Like an Earth Day event or even a fair or festival.
And college campuses are such an amazing opportunity because we have resources that a lot of people outside of campuses don't. We have access to a lot of free printing, free flyers, free stickers, like all of these microphones, stuff like that. But then we also have a lot of young, passionate people all in one place, buzzing with energy to do something.
But they're super busy. They're working on a degree.
That's true.
Super busy.
College students some of them have more free time than they let on.
Oh, okay.
But yes,
It's good to know.
it's true. A lot of higher education is often overlooked because of that, and I think there's still more of an opportunity there than what meets the eye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you're at a college, you still have to go home to lobby your representative, though, right?
You typically lobby in the area that you vote. I vote in Ohio, so I lobby in Ohio. This isn't always the case. However, the bio that you hand the representative, you do say where you're from, and if they see that you're not voting for them, it does have a slightly less impact compared to, say, like, you directly represent me, the decisions you make directly impact my life. There's just a bit more power behind it. However, CCL has miscellaneous lobbying groups. And if you don't have a lobby team, they can place you anywhere in the country so that you can still have the opportunity.
Okay. You know, I noticed when I was calling, and sometimes I go on different, some of our Congress people are on certain work groups or task groups, so I try to contact those people. And they sometimes won't even take your comment if you're not from their district.
Wow.
And I think that's horrible, because if they're a senator, they're making decisions that affect everybody in the country.
Yeah.
Why aren't they taking
especially when it comes to the environment. But it's I say framework so often, but it's we're acting like the environment doesn't cross over state borders.
Yeah.
Unlike other type policies and stuff that they're used to dealing with. So it's really about, like, shifting that mindset. Yeah.
What do you think of the power of corporate influence on our democracy? For instance, that's something that's really concerned me, is that people if we get representatives who really want to take action and really even talk about removing fossil fuel subsidies or something, they get these campaigns against them that just get them out of office. They can't stay long enough to get stuff done because there's dark money campaigns and so much power, it seems, influence on our government that kind of limits the power of the people in the democracy.
Yeah, I can't speak too much on this topic. That's not really, like, where I've, like, completely studied, but I do personally think that the power is where the money is, and if we put the money in a place that is more sustainable, then the power will shift. It is.
And we can do that through the legislation of carbon fee and dividend for once.
And other countries are in the process of doing that. So I know it seems like this whole mountain, but it is good to look at very similar, like Canada. It's not too distant of a comparison.
Yeah, one time I was really depressed, and my friend in the Netherlands on a Zoom call said, "Don't worry, Europe is really doing well. We've got a lot of things in the works."
Yeah. So it does seem overwhelming, and it is an overwhelming problem. But if, like you said, if you bury your head in the sand, it's still happening no matter what. So yeah,
like Greta said, change is coming, whether you want it or not.
It's true. It's true.
Well, I am so glad that you're doing what you're doing, and it's always inspiring to me to see people who are young and energetic, and yet have this broader viewpoint that's far beyond you and your own lifetime. You're already becoming a good ancestor, with your actions now.
And you likewise.
Thank you. I try. I try. I really love the optimism and the energy that is CCL, and we talked about the power is where the money is, but I think the power can be where the people are.
You are so right. I definitely, that is even more so.
Yeah, even more so. Especially when people get together and, hold hands and say, we're together doing this.
Yeah.
We're going to, and you know what I find? I have direct experience with this, of working in groups where you might not even like some of the other people, but you respect them because you have the same goal.
That's true.
You're working together for the same goal. So even though they're coming at it differently, or they're just, you're not clicking with how they're doing things, you're still working together and respecting each other.
Yeah.
And it's just magic, really. I love it.
It's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I organized William and Mary to go to the New York March Against Fossil Fuels.
Oh.
And so we got a 12-person van, left at 7 p.m., got to New Jersey at 4 a.m., marched at 8 a.m., absolutely invigorating. It was really, they were expecting I think 8,000 people to show up, and they're saying between 50 to 75,000 showed up. And it was really this awe-inspiring moment of so much diversity coming together, marching.
That's inspiring to hear. I like that.
And there were really amazing speakers, and AOC was there, and she spoke, and she said, we organize out of hope, we organize out of love, we organize out of compassion, and we organize out of the beauty of our future. And so, I mean, it speaks for itself. But it was, I think, so many people coming from so far away to build that crowd.
Gonna make me cry. Because I think about that a lot, of giving people a vision of a world they can live into, future they can live into. And a lot of the times the climate movement is doing the opposite. It's giving, we're going to have a terrible future, and you're not going to have a comfortable time at all. You're not going to be able to take care of your children.
Yeah.
And there are other ways.
Exactly.
The door has not closed yet. The future hasn't been written yet, really.
For sure.
And we need to give people an image of how the changes could happen.
Yeah.
So, the carbon fee and dividend is one step. There are other steps that
we need everything. It's a powerful big ticket item that is would stay and cause momentum, but we need everything to tackle it. I will say, since you brought up climate fear, I think leading with the scary doom of it all is very common, and it's disheartening to me because it's very, very effective in the sense that it gets people to work in the short term. So if you want donations for a website, or people to sign something very quickly, fear is excellent at doing that, but in the end it shuts people down. You bury your head in your sand, you put up your boxes, you do whatever coping mechanism you need. And some people work through that, but it's still hard on mental health and everything along those lines. And then it also just re-engages you in those polarizing conversations as well. So
I wanted to mention Margaret Klein Solomon's website is called Climate Awakening, and you can sign up to be to just join a climate listening online, and you're just matched up in a sort of Zoom room. It's not Zoom, but it's another platform. But you're matched up with maybe 4 or maybe 5 other people from around the world. So last time I was in there, I got to talk to someone from Australia, someone from Europe, and we're all sharing our experiences and our emotions, and it walks you through it, so it's guided and kind of encapsulated, so it's not just, free form where someone could take over and talk or something. It's guided. Each person gets a chance to talk. Each person is listened to and
That's
validated.
Really nice.
And it's, I think it's really important it's funny, I don't want to go because I don't want to feel grief, or I don't want to, feel sadness. But at the same time, afterwards, I always feel so much lighter and more energized. So it's done in a light enough way that it's not heavy.
Yeah.
And I found it really important, an important part of my climate work.
Yeah. And I studied abroad in Australia over the summer, and even though they don't like officially have a carbon price, they're still doing amazing work. They have really transitioned into clean energy. They have a zero nuclear tolerance, but they are really working towards hydrogen, and they're leading the world in hydrogen. It's very fascinating stuff. I got to talk to a hydrogen professor expert, and the amount of knowledge and capacity and motivation and thought that's going into these solutions is very inspiring. Even if they don't have the policy that everybody else has.
Yeah. Well, they did elect new people. They elected a whole new agenda with a new set of leaders.
Yeah.
So maybe there's hope there. I just want to, as we finish up, is there anything else that you wanted people to know, or how to connect with the conference that you're doing? Or?
Yes, the conference is in Virginia. But if you are willing to travel, it would be under the Citizens Climate Lobby website under conferences. Okay. It's a regional conference, so they have conferences in much closer to Ohio as well.
Oh, okay.
And then they have their national conference in D.C. once a year in June.
But yours has a theme of generations?
Okay. Every conference will have a theme. That's just because they're having it at William & Mary, they wanted to pick an intergenerational theme. But all of them are very engaging.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. When is it going to be?
It's going to be the weekend of February 24th and
February. Coming right up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's coming. I'm very excited. I'm going to be leading a panel with it's the intergenerational approach. So I'm going to be doing former Congressmember Bob Ingalls. I'm going to be interviewing him and a local pastor and an author in Richmond as well.
Okay, great. And will these all be recorded and put on your library?
Yes. These not like the library I'm making for the higher education website, but they'll be on YouTube.
Oh, good. You have your own YouTube channel?
I don't, but CCL does.
Okay, it'll be on CCL.
But if you want to check out social media, you Instagram. There's the Citizens Climate is the Instagram for the official website.
Okay.
However, CCL higher ed is the work that I had been doing through my internship. And then there's the student-led movement for Carbon Fee and Dividend, called Carbon Fee and Dividend.
But that's a division of CCL or a part of it, connected to CCL?
It's a campaign of the CCL higher education.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's amazing that you get to do this. Or leading this.
Yeah. Your energy is so wonderful. And
thank you.
I'm so grateful that there's good people like you and smart people like you working on this. I'm going to sleep well tonight knowing that the world is in good hands.
There's 6,000 more of me just at William & Mary alone. So this is the group that's going to be leading our future in a few decades. So,
hurrah! Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me for Climate Agents of Change.